I became interested in this story long ago, and in 2017, I began to do deeper research based on a mark on a map from 1748 that said simply, Jethro, a black man farmer. It struck me then that we could know more about Jethro. Jethro Luke was a black man in New Haven in the 18th century. He was originally enslaved to the Pierpont family, which included the Reverend James Pierpont, founding minister trustee of Yale. He was a property owner early after manumission, perhaps the first black property owner in New Haven. He was someone who did multiple kinds of work, as recorded in the account books of Thomas Clapp, as well as by looking at his probate record. He owned 2 pieces of property. He owned a Bible, so we can believe that he was literate, probably self-taught, taught through the church. He was a member of the First Congregational Church in New Haven. His name is very interesting, whether he chose it himself or was given to him. Jethro, of course, is the father-in-law of Moses, who led the Israelites to liberation. Luke is the apostle who's most associated with preaching deliverance to the captives. Jethro Luke, his son Gad, was named after the tribe of Israelites who also were tied to the story of freedom in the Bible. So his name carries notions of freedom and liberation. I was able, thanks to the New Haven Museum, to look at his probate records. That gave various bits of evidence, including ties to Thomas Clapp, the president of Yale. That led me to Clapp's papers and to official Yale records. And there, all the information about the building of Connecticut Hall can be found. Connecticut Hall is the oldest surviving building on the Yale campus and in New Haven. It was the 3rd building of the Yale campus. It was the dream of the Reverend Thomas Clapp, president of Yale, first person to hold that title, who saw it as a way to grow the college and establish it as a leader throughout the American colonies. It is an old building and a building that ties our present campus to its 3 centuries of history. In all the previous histories, credit for its building was given to Thomas Clapp, the president of Yale, and to Thomas Bills and Francis Letort. In fact, scores of people worked on the building of Connecticut Hall. Tallying up all the hours in the records, free and enslaved black men worked 672 days in the construction of a Connecticut Hall. Black people contributed 27% of the hours to Connecticut Hall, while they were only about 3% of the local population. So from foundation stone to rooftop, it was all work done by local construction workers, free white laborers, the 2 free black laborers, Jethro and Gad. We know the names now of 4 of the enslaved people, just their first names, and are looking for the name of the 5th enslaved man. Connecticut Hall exemplifies the truth about Yale, New Haven, Connecticut, and America. It would not exist if there were not black labor. Connecticut Hall was funded in part by the public. It's called Connecticut Hall because the colony of Connecticut provided funds. Those funds came from taxes and from the economy, which itself was deeply entwined with the transatlantic slave trade, and particularly with trade with the Caribbean. The presence of slavery at Yale, in New Haven, and Connecticut is ubiquitous. At the same time, the historical telling of that presence is absent. The silence is as ubiquitous as the presence was real. As an alumnus, as someone with 2 degrees from Yale, I'm encouraged that we are finally, truly taking a look at all the aspects of who built Yale.